Hello, I'm Ken Robinson and welcome to Learning from Home. It's a few weeks now since we announced this series of conversations about how to meet the challenges of educating our children during the lockdown. Well, here we are, 5 weeks later. The lockdown is still continuing, although for some of you, it's beginning to ease. Some people have been encouraged to go back to work. But nonetheless, the challenges remain, don't they, of balancing the challenges of the lockdown, the challenge of if you are at home working, of managing your life as a parent, managing the pressures on your children. Are they coming from school? Are you trying to reorganize the way they learn? And some people are having to go back out to work without their children going back to school at all. So these challenges haven't gone away, although they've been changing. And we've been fascinated by the responses we've had as we've talked to people around the world about the way they see the issues they now face and how they've been dealing with them. A big issue is whether, as parents, you should try and replicate school as you've come to know it at home, or whether the lockdown has created some opportunities to think very differently about your children's learning and how to organize it and how to cater to their individual needs and their interests. And another question that's circling around all of us is, as our children go back to school, whether it's in the next few weeks or the next few months, do we expect them to go back to school as it was, or have we learned things about our experiences of working with our kids during the lockdown that incline us to think we'd like education to change in some way? Well, we're going to cover all of those issues with a whole series of interviews that we've had over the past few weeks, and we're delighted to share them with you. I've been working on this project with my daughter Kate and her partner Anthony at Nevergrey, and as it turns out, they're in lockdown in the next building to us, and they've been helping to organize this whole research and campaign and to identify great people to talk to. So let me just introduce you to Kate, my daughter, to say a little bit about how she's been dealing with the lockdown and the sort of ideas that we've been getting from people and that we're going to present to you during this series. Kate.
Amazing, thank you. Well, we are, as you said, in lockdown in the building next door. I'm here with my partner Anthony and also our 2-year-old daughter who is currently napping, which has presented a whole host of, I think, challenges of keeping a toddler entertained, not least of all in the top 4 flat, where we've had at least one complaint from neighbours about the noise, as well as on our end, I think a lot of opportunities in terms of having time with her that we wouldn't have had life continued as normal. On top of that, though, we've been trying to figure out how to work, how to give her the right amount of attention and valuable experiences through this, but not educating her from home, if that makes sense. So she's a bit younger than school aged, which takes some of the pressure off on that end. But we've been doing our best. And part of what we've been doing through Learning from Home, as you said, is speaking to people from all around the world. We were inundated with responses to the original video, asking for people to write in and say what their experience has been. We've been going through and reading a lot of them. And there have been a couple of threads, I think, as these interviews as well get published, what we found from looking at them is how many common threads there are from people from different parts of the world who otherwise have nothing particularly in common, but who come out sometimes with even the same sentence describing what they're going through. And you have people who've got, one child and how they deal with that. You've got families who've got 4 children or more of different ages and how they're educating a preschooler along with a high schooler in the same house. You've also, as you said, you've got people who have got no access to outdoor space. You've got people who've got lots of outdoor space. You've got families who are still working and having to go out the door. So what we're learning on our end through all this experience is that we're all going through the same experience, but we're all going through it very differently. That being said, I think there are a great number of common threads and experiences that people are going through that they've shared with us that I think other people will find valuable as we're all trying to navigate this lockdown.
Well, that's true. There are lots of common challenges and a number of different strategies have been emerging. And what we've been very keen to do throughout in the conversation we've been having for these podcasts is to look at this in a very practical way. These aren't theoretical challenges. These are real challenges that are affecting families, how they live, how their relationships, and how they balance them. So we're going to begin our conversations here with a conversation with a wonderful mother and professional from Mexico, Sonia Benavides.
So it all started for us on March 13th. And I actually was at Mexico City with my daughter. She was on a softball tournament. And we spent 4 days there. So while we were over there, And at Mexico City, there was no sign of anything. And I would ask like the taxi driver, the Uber driver, so how is it here? Because the first thing that happened here in Monterrey was that the toilet paper ran out. I mean, it's crazy.
Because people were buying too much of it.
Yes, and hoarding canned food and
yes.
I mean,
same here.
Everywhere.
Yeah.
So that happened
we should be in the toilet paper business.
Yeah.
This is
so
the
I was flying over there, and I mean, nothing was canceled. The tournament was still going on, and so while I was over there, my chat was my WhatsApp was with all these messages that school might be canceled. But since it wasn't happening in Mexico City, I mean, there were concerts, and the city was as normal, as busy as ever. So we came back here, and no school and everything. Some businesses were closing, but we were still not worried. It was just like 100 cases. That was almost a month ago.
Yeah. And now?
And now we are in the 1,000 of cases, and around, I mean, I lost count. I was keeping count, but
yes.
It's not healthy.
There's no point after a while.
Yeah, but I mean, a lot of people have diseased, and right now we're like in phase 2, which means stay in your house. Don't go unless it's necessary, and you can't lock down the whole country. I mean, other things are involved, economical, and you can't tell a person. I mean, it's really, we're privileged to be able to stay at home, and we have our pantry stocked, but there are persons that live to the day. I mean, they have to go out. And if they don't work, they don't eat that day. I mean, it's a reality here. And 60% of Mexico's population is in extreme poverty. So, I mean, it's okay to say I'm going to save the world by doing Netflix and this and that, but other people have to go out. So we have learned to not, we have learned to not to be so critical. I mean,
I think that's the same here, that people are discovering that all of these people who are doing very practical jobs are often low paid.
Yes.
We depend entirely on them. I'm in London just now, and it was on the news last night. I think it's 9 bus drivers in the city have died from the virus since the lockdown began, because they're essential services. But like many people in these roles, they're not well paid. They can't work from home. They have to go out and face these dangers, and they've had very little protection. I think it's a really important point, this, isn't it? People are beginning to, and if they haven't, they should start to reappraise the value that we put in all of these roles, like teachers, like the medical workers.
Nurses, teachers, even the people that drive the bus drivers and policemen and all those primary services, like you say, that we didn't value enough. And they're the ones that are carrying the country right now.
That's right. The distribution drivers, the people who are stacking shelves. That's right.
The garbage
people, exactly.
Yes.
So are you, I can't tell from where you are you in a house? You live in an apartment?
Yes, I live in a house. My mom's here, my 4 children. And right now my brother is here too. So it is a full house.
Yeah.
And
so now you've got this whole other role on top of everything else. You're having to
the thing.
homeschool the children.
And I'm sure the whole world, or the whole all the parents are, all of a sudden they became everything. I mean, we still have to work. We have to educate. We have to take care of domestic chores. I mean, you have to be the psychologist of our kids, everything. And to share the space. I mean, this is a full house, but since the kids go to school, half of the day it's empty. Yeah. And after school, they have their practices, their sports practice, and it's always kind of empty. We were talking the other day that the living room was never even used. And now it's like the headquarters of everything right now happening. So
let me ask you, you've got 4 children.
Yes.
How old are they?
The youngest is 6, just turned 6. Then I have Isabella, she's going to be 9 next week. And then my other kid is, how old are you?
I'm 11.
11. And my oldest is going to be 13 almost next week too. So, you know.
I'm one of 7 children.
Okay, so you know what I mean.
When I was growing up, yeah. And my parents always forgot everybody's name. They'd kind of run through all the names in the family before they got to you.
Yeah, okay. I'm a good mother though. Yeah.
I'm sure.
So,
are they boys and girls that you have?
2 and 2.
Yeah.
The young ones are the girls, the old ones are the boys.
Yeah.
So it's a teen, almost a tween, and then a 9-year-old and a preschooler.
So all this was just thrown at you, wasn't it? On top of everything else.
Yes.
You're in charge of their education.
Yes. All of a sudden.
All of a sudden.
Well, that's the thing. It was not all of a sudden. I mean, we have left that job just to the teachers, and now I'm thinking we're the primary educators. Now I'm just realizing that. I mean, I've never thought about homeschool before, and when I did, I said that is not for me. It's not. And then I'm here homeschooling. Why
did you think it wasn't for you?
I thought I didn't have the patience, or you know, all the like the title. I don't know how to say anything. Like, I didn't go to school to study that, so why should I know how to teach somebody?
Yeah. So how have you been dealing with it?
Well, the first thing was to tell them, hey, I'm your teacher. And they were like, really? You're not my teacher. So that was the first challenge. And then they really thought they were going to have a party here, like no school at all.
You said in your letter that, or in your email, that one of the first things was to make them understand that education isn't an obligation, but a privilege.
Yes.
What did you mean by that?
Well, do we have to, the thing that you have to go to school, you have to be early, you have to do your homework. They see it like that, but it's not that you have to, it's that you can. I mean, you're privileged in this way. What I was telling you about Mexico, I mean, not a lot of people, not a lot of children go to school. They have to go out with their parents because their parents are on the street selling on the street lights. And they have their kids with them. So, I mean, that kid deserves to be at school and has the right to, but, well, he can't. So I told my kids it's a privilege. You can go to school. Yeah. Or you have the right to be taught. You have the right to learn. Yeah. So
it's such an important thing, that, Sonia.
Yes.
A lot of kids in the UK, I'd say, and in America, I lived in America for a long time, just think it's something they have to get through, and often resent it. I mean, there are good reasons, I think, why they resent it. I think part of it was in your note about, you said that you were following the school's curriculum, but somehow you felt it wasn't enough. There are all kinds of things that, we might talk about that, the way the education system works. But it's something that for people in a lot of the world, it's a privilege they simply don't get the benefit of.
And yes, they don't. It's not just to understand it's a privilege, but also to feel motivated and inspired. And well, my kids they don't feel motivated or inspired. And I remember my days at school, and I was so eager to go. I wouldn't miss it, and it was, maybe I had some inspiring teachers. I don't know. So maybe it's the time to take that that job or that calling. I mean, because we are the first educators, and it had to happen to understand that. I mean,
so do really. All your children all go to the same school?
Yes, it's a school that has from preschool all over to high school. Yeah. So yeah, so it works for me.
What have you had to deal with? Has the school been giving you instructions or support? Have they been telling you what you have to do?
Yes, I guess it has worked pretty much the same to everybody. I received the email one day before, and so it's kind of like dropping a bomb.
One day before.
Yeah, all of us. But the thing is, I mean, my challenge is that there are 4 kids, different levels, 1 teacher, and I don't have. I mean, we have some resources, but they do have to take turns to. I mean, there are 2 computers for them, so they have to take turns. So that makes the shift longer. I mean, I drop them off at school, and then I pick them all up, and here the shift just goes through all day. Yeah. So I received the instructions, and the curricula is like math, Spanish, English, reading, all this stuff. And beside that, there are also activities like art and computer or physical activities that also have to be done. You have to record them, or if it's paperwork, you have to scan it. Really? And then send it all together. So that takes time too.
Yeah. So how do you manage it all in among everything else, because you're working as well? Yeah.
The first week was like, I'll do it all. And then that didn't work, of course. And then they had to learn that they have chores too, domestic chores to do. So once I involved them in that too, things got pretty much easy around.
Did they have to do that before, or is this something you've introduced now?
I tried to do that before, but you always end up doing it yourself, because it's easier. It's easier than dealing with the other one and do it and not doing it. But now I think everyone is involved. Even the grown-ups are involved. So we all have like things to do. And I supervise now. Yes. Like what I do at my job. Like everybody is doing what they're supposed to be doing.
Yeah.
That's my job now.
You have a regular rhythm to the day.
Yes, but no. I tried to do like a very rigid schedule. It didn't work. And then I learned that like the Montessori schools, they do when you want to do it and stuff. It really works right now for me because I have a flexible schedule. I mean, these are the things that have to be done, and we're gonna find the right time to do it. And it won't be something wrong if I didn't do it before or after it was supposed to. But right now, the most important is just get it done. Get it done, and just you'll have your time. But that was the thing. The kids, I told them, you wake up, you have to do your bed, you have to bathe yourself and come out like if you're going out, because the first week it was like, we're not going out. Why change clothes or what? No, you have to. We have to be civil, keep civil, like try to keep the normal going.
Yeah. But so do you give them a lot more responsibility now? Yes. They have to take out the garbage outside, and they have in terms of the work that they're having to do from school, you make sure they do it, but you leave them to organize when they do it.
Yes, they have the domestic chores, their school work, their exercise. So that was I told you I was at Mexico City for my daughter's tournament, and then they got their pass to the World Series of softball. It was going to be held up in Louisiana. Well, it's canceled. So I told them that even though it was canceled, they still had to practice like if they were going to. So they have their 2 hours of practice. It's in the backyard and it's very limited, but they're still throwing balls to the wall and trying to keep up their routine. And they asked like, why if it's canceled? Well, we have, for them it was like the world stopped. But I'm trying to tell them it is like on a pause, then it's gonna come back everything. So we have to be doing stuff.
Do you get them, because it's a big spread, isn't it, from 6 to 13?
Yes.
So do you have them teaching each other as well? Do you get them to help each other?
You know, I did that. My oldest, I mean, he can teach my daughter the division or some arithmetic, and they have been feeling like helpful,
Mm-hmm.
and it has been helpful to me. So, and then more confident, like I can teach my sister this. I have now this power. I'm empowered, and
Yeah.
it's
That's a good
fun.
thing, isn't it?
Yeah. So the thing is, we all are involved.
Yes.
In everything, in domestic chores, even in entertaining ourselves, like playing board games, which we didn't have that before. You know, there was the rush for everything. The rush is gone. I mean, we have all the time, and it's so good, because for us, for me personally, it was like this train started at 6 a.m. nonstop. Just this station, this other station. I mean, and it's for every working parent.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden that's gone. There's no rush, so we have time for board games, we have time for cooking, we have time for everything. And the involvement has been the key for me.
Yeah.
Because the first week was, I can do it all. And I can't do it all. I can't. I mean, I could, and it would not be healthy for anyone in this house. And so the involvement has been a key for.
Well, that's the thing, isn't it? If you take it all onto yourself and it starts getting difficult, then you're held responsible for it. Whereas if you get everybody involved,
Everybody's responsible. Yes, that, and the community is more sustainable. Everybody is involved, and so everybody is worried. Everybody is asking questions, and can I do this? And then they have seen me do stuff, and then they can I help you? Can I be involved? Can I be?
Yeah.
Sure. Which I don't know why it had to come to this. So simple.
Yeah. Yeah. I know, but what does it make you think about the way regular school works?
I don't like it. My kids don't like it, and there are some rules that are just, I don't know, for the fun of it. It's pointless. About the curricula, why I started looking more resources. It was just so like they just said, do this and that's it. Just do this. Just find the adjectives in this sentence, and that's it. So it was so academic.
Yes.
But why not inspire more curiosity, or go beyond the point of just teaching that? I mean, because right now that is not useful right now.
Mm-hmm.
Why not make an essay about using adjectives about what you're living right now? I mean, explore more things.
And is that what you're doing with them?
Yes, we're involving art,
Yeah.
which is really, well, I'm an architect, so we really like drawing here and painting and getting all, I have like this huge stock of cardboards and crayons and paintings and brushes. So like if this activity was read this story and answer these questions. And then I would add like, well, make a drawing of what you read, or draw the scenery.
Yeah.
And then they went, well, that's not on the task. Well, I know it's not on the task, but let's make it more fun. Let's give it a twist. I'm sure your teacher will be pleased. And that's when they, oh yeah, that's right. My teacher, I'm the teacher now, but okay. So they would send the homework, and they would get a feedback from the teacher that like, oh, that was great. You did the drawing.
Mm-hmm.
So, and then on the chemistry part, or the science matter, we were doing some things here, more graphic, more visual than just sticking.
How are you managing with those things where you have, presumably they're supposed to be doing science experiments or science projects? Are you able to
Yes.
do all of those things in the house?
Yes, well, I mean, not crazy stuff, but you go to the backyard and find, well, I'm doing this with my preschooler. They're learning about the animals and the classification. So we were, well, let's go to the backyard and find something here on the pots. Maybe we can find an insect or a bug or something. I mean, we can go out. We're not going out. Some people are going out. I prefer not to because they're not taking like the precautions, and like gatherings are still, you can see people at the park or neighbors doing barbecues.
You see it in
parties.
The same thing, people having street parties. It's crazy. Yes. They're being told not to do it. I
yes.
don't know if they think they're invulnerable.
Yes. So we're not going out. And then I told my preschooler that she was going to lecture me about all what she has learned. So it was kind of fun. She got to be like a YouTuber. She thought she was online and millions of likes, but it was just for me. But she really did. I was really, we were the public, all the kids. And she really got the whole lessons. And I mean, there was no script, and she just started talking about 10 minutes non-stopping. And she really liked that. And I could tell she really didn't have the time to do that in her regular classroom. I mean, it's the teacher, the one that's teaching, and the kids are listening about. So this time the tables turned, and she was the one teaching us.
And so
that was kind of fun.
She was much more engaged and enthusiastic that way around.
Yeah, and then so she started making questions, and I didn't have all the answers, but hey, let's investigate.
Yeah, that's great, isn't it? I mean, I've always feel this about kids. That they have much more ability, much more ability to question, to find things out, to teach than they're given credit for.
Yes,
so often at
definitely.
School they're sat down and told things, and you can see. But I'm not blaming teachers for that.
No.
The pressure of the system.
It's a lot of kids. There are like 40 kids in her classroom. So can you imagine?
Different thing.
And they all have to learn the same at the same time in the same way.
Yeah.
And this is the good thing about right now. We have all the time to get the approach right for them.
For them as individuals.
Yeah, and the education has been extended throughout, even through our domestic chores. Like this time you're going to help me cook. And while we're cooking, you're going to be measuring and you're going to be learning. And so we have found out that there are millions of ways to teach and to learn, not just in the classroom.
Yeah, not just being told things and
yes,
all at the same time. So how do you feel? Do you feel things should change when everybody goes back to school? Do you think there's a chance they could?
Everything has to change in the education system and everywhere, but sticking to the education, yes, teachers have learned from this that students can learn other ways, not just the same book that was, I don't know, published 10 years ago. We're still using the same book. And there are other ways. And
thank you, Sonia. One of my books was published 10 years ago. It's still great.
Well, I'm sorry. Don't get me wrong. Like the programs are still, we're using the same programs. Like the same books I had. I mean, come on. Something new has to come up. But
presumably very much like when you were at school.
I'm sorry?
School now, is this right? Is very much like it was when you were at school. Still.
Some things, yeah. I mean, you can't believe it's like 30 years ago. I mean, things have to change.
How did you get to be an architect? Was that something that you were turned on to at school?
No, I was discouraged at school. I was in a religious institution, and my last year of high school, they started making all these evaluations for what orientation. It's called vocational orientation. And according to my evaluations, I was not fit for that. I mean, something else came up, like criminologist, or I mean, nothing. So
that's not a common option at school, is it?
Yeah, I was discouraged from that. But for me, it was something I always wanted to be. And I had the influence. My parents had this construction company. So, I mean, the apple does not fall far from the tree.
Yeah.
But it was not from school. So anyway, I kept to my to my beliefs, and I became an architect, and I that's what I do for a living. So I mean, I guess it didn't go wrong.
And you enjoy it.
And I enjoy it. Yes.
Can you see your own children developing particular interests now?
Well, they're 4, and they're so different. And one wants to be like software developer, aka video game. When he wants to make video games. But I have 2 that are more interested in arts, and I think I might have the influence since they were kids, young kids. I always have paints around the house and paintings, and I do encourage them a lot of drawings. And I mean, for me, it's like therapy. So that's my way to communicate with my kids.
Yeah.
And we're doing that right now. I mean, we're having a blast on arts.
That's fantastic. Can I ask you, what do they want to be online a lot? That's always a big
Yes. I mean, that's why the chores came in. I mean, not really just to help me, but to keep them out of that. But, everybody tells that's not good, and it's saving us. I mean, if you do it right, if you use it right, limiting time and what they're doing there, I don't know, it's good.
Yeah.
So it depends on how you manage it. We're not screen free. I mean, we are doing it, but they have to do like their homework, their chores. They have to be bathed, they have to eat, they have to exercise, and then you can use it. Sure. Yeah, it's
there's
okay.
A lot of great stuff on the internet, isn't there, that you can use for what you're doing?
Yes, and then there are a lot of apps, like I'm having trouble with my multiplication. Okay, there's this game here online. Do it. Yeah. And everybody's...
It can be a lifesaver. I don't know about you, but I know when my kids went through school,
it's a lifesaver. It is.
You start discovering all these things you weren't very good at the time.
Yes.
And they think you're a genius. So I was watching a parent yesterday on the news report on the television where he was trying to teach his kid algebra, and you could see he just didn't get it himself. And she ended up teaching him. And it's bound to be that way, isn't it? But there is a lot of stuff online.
Resources and I mean tutorials and
yeah.
They're mocking me because I don't know something. Well, let's Google it. Come on, let's Google it. Let's see where we can find it. I mean, back in the day, you had to go to a dictionary or ask a grown-up, but now you can do it for yourself. Yeah. So it's empowering for them.
Yeah.
And
you need to manage the time, and as long as it doesn't take up all the time.
Yes, just be aware of that. Okay. And now we're at home, so when we worked, we couldn't know what they were doing with their caregivers, nanny or whatever. But now we're at home, so we can be monitoring them more closely than ever.
Well, it sounds to me like you're doing a wonderful job, I have to say.
Well, the anxiety and the stress does come in sometimes, but we're managing.
How do you deal with that? How do you create space for yourself in the middle of all of this?
That's the thing I haven't done. Because the kids are sleeping in late, but that's my next challenge.
It is, isn't it? It's important to do that.
You see, since my job is everybody has to be doing their things, and then I haven't thought about myself, but it's a very good question.
Well, that's the next phase, isn't it? I mean, it's the old thing, isn't it, about put your own mask on first? I mean, it has a particular resonance now, but it's always true that you're only good for them if you're you're centered and you're able to give time to yourself.
Yeah, it's very true.
That's right. And people in very different circumstances. And also, I do think in the long run, assuming at some point this wave passes over, we'll have all learned a lot as well about education and whether we really do want to go back to business as usual.
I hope we don't.
I hope we don't too. And I've been campaigning for a long time that it should be different. And it should be based on the principles you're describing, individual attention, but also collective responsibility, rather than children being always kind of under the authoritarian pressure of somebody else. I think, as your experience shows, they tend to grow and flourish much more when they're given their own responsibility to work together and with each other, don't you think?
Yeah, and it's not the teachers, it's the system. So we have to change the system, because they're wonderful teachers, and it has kept us all in this cycle. I don't know, just break the wheel. We have to.
Yeah, it's like you're saying, one of the things that your children said is that they enjoy there's no testing.
Yes.
And awful lot of education is kind of preoccupied with testing, which is a multi-billion-dollar industry.
It is.
As far as I can see, it doesn't achieve anything worthwhile at all.
Yeah.
So
they're losing the fear to be wrong.
That's right.
And it is so liberating.
Yeah.
And well, I would like to add about the guilt, and I hope parents don't have the guilt. We're doing the best we can, how we can, and our situation is different from the others. And I mean, leave out the guilt and the shame, and not everything. I mean, we're trying to survive something that it's unprecedented. So let's do our best.
Wasn't that a fantastic conversation? I feel like Sonia made so many points that were incredibly thought through. I was amazed by how much self-awareness she has, in particular with her own situation, but also her role is not sort of her role of overseeing everybody rather than taking the traditional role of a teacher, but also the insight that she had around the issue of getting her children to respect the fact that she was taking on that role of a teacher, which I'm sure many, particularly people with teenagers, have been finding over the past several weeks.
Yeah, I really picked up on that. The fact that she didn't see herself, as you say, as the person having to always be in control, but the person organizing, and that there was a responsibility among kids to take on roles of household tasks and to also contribute to each other's learning. So it became much more collaborative. It's something that we've pushed for, haven't we, for a long time in schools, that children don't just learn with each other, they learn from each other. And I think the opportunity that people have had to make that a reality in their own home, as Sonia has shown, is fantastic. I thought it was a really good account of a way of encouraging not just shared responsibility, but the children's sense of independence and of needing to be part of this collaborative effort.
And also you get a real strong sense from her description of the family unit growing together. One of the points that really resonated with me as a mother of a small child was this feeling that the day starts, it's like a railway, the day starts and you get on the train and then it takes you through the day, and at the end of the day you get off and go to sleep and get up, and it keeps going over and over again, whereas now they're making time for board games and for coming together. Which is one of a huge thing that I think has come up across not just this interview series, but things we've been reading through the pandemic, is which parts of life do we want to return to normal? We're very keen for things to go back to normal, obviously, and away from how they are now, but what does that new normal look like as and when the world opens up again? Do we want to get back on the railway and back on the train and keep going from A to B, or do we want to take some of these lessons of reconnecting with each other and put them into whatever this new normal becomes?
It's like, isn't it, that people have noticed the skies are being clearing, the water is being clearing. Yeah. And actually, where we are just now, and anyone, actually, I think it doesn't matter if you're in the city or the country, people are hearing bird song again. And it's amazing how quickly the Earth's beginning to recover. And a lot of people have been saying that. There've been a lot of pressures of learning from home, but very many families are saying that there's been a benefit in it too, because they've got to know each other better. Once they've figured out some way of being together, people are rediscovering each other and discovering relationships that perhaps they'd forgotten about or hadn't quite ever explored. Yeah. So properly done, there's been a real bonus for very many families. The other thing she mentioned, I just wonder what you made of it, is that nonetheless, she's still we keep being told to put our masks on, but the big trick is putting your own mask on first, isn't it? And I know Sonia was saying she found it very difficult still to create the space that she needs for herself, as well as being there for everybody else.
It's your instinct as a parent, presumably, but I can only speak as a mother. You can speak as a father. That you're constantly putting other people first, and also going back to that point of her delegating. Your instinct is always to do everything for everybody as well. So, and it is. I mean, very literally, when you're stuck in your home or kept in your home, finding space, even physical space, let alone mental and creative or emotional space in this, it's incredibly difficult. And that is a theme that comes up across almost every conversation that we've had, is how families are taking time for themselves, and some of them are doing it well, and some people are really struggling still.
Well, and again, a lot depends on what part of the world people are in, and what, particularly if their children are in public schools, what the attitude is and what the pressures are from the public school system, because teachers and administrators are also in lockdown, and they've been pitched into this, and some school districts are behaving very differently from others. And Sonia's among a lot of people we've spoken to who've seen the opportunity to do things differently and not to replicate the way schools often run. But it's not always like that, and some people are finding it very difficult to manage the expectations that are coming from outside. We're going to talk, aren't we, later in the series, to people in the school system to see how it's looking to them. But our next conversation is going to be with a parent in Utah, Natalie, who has got all the same commitment and passion, but is having a very different experience. So we're looking forward to that. And so can we thank you for listening to Learning from Home. We'd love to hear from you, get your responses and your experience as well, and we'll try and feed them into subsequent episodes. But in the meantime, stay safe, stay well, and please be in touch.